Okay, and we are live. Let's play right intro. Here we go. Hi, Internet. Is it a bit dark here?
Hey,
It does look
hello
a bit dark.
Louise, good evening.
Is it a bit dark? It does a little bit. Let me see.
Oh,
Let's
no, it looks okay to me.
Okay, great. It's nice to talk. We haven't been talking for a while, so hope everybody's excited. Let's see who's there. Give us a few hearts, people. You know how I feel about my hearts. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so tonight we have no peep from load shedding. The frogs are behaving. I have a cat on the bed that is coughing. Um, Nobody knows that usually there's a few cats around me, like 7 cats, 7 of my rescues around me and Muffin on my lap. But they're so well behaved, they're very quiet. So hopefully that coughing cat is far enough so it doesn't disturb anybody. Right. Okay, so tonight we're going to do a new thing. We're going to do book club. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to stay with our theme of inner child healing, which is so important. Okay, so if anybody who's got a book, if you've got a book, then we are reading at on page 90. I'm just going to read a very, very short paragraph. Let me throw some light on the subject because I'm not going to read in the dark. Okay. All right, so we are all about before the age of 7 because our subconscious is very deeply entrenched in who we were by the age of 7, and then also by the age of 12 because that's when our hormones kick in, all the teenage hormones kick in, and we can start becoming rebels and we can start becoming um, more judgmental of the people around us. But up to 12, up to puberty, we can't. We judge ourselves harshly. So that's just the starting point. That's why we keep on going back to 7 and 12. Very well researched. Neuropsychology is very clear about it. And that's the reason that we walk around with so much hurt inside ourselves because it's stored in the subconscious for a lot of people. And then we don't even know, and it comes out in all kinds of ways. So let's read a short paragraph and of course, hamster wheel relationships, which is everything about the relationships, but really everything about self empowerment and self knowledge. Right. Um, I want to specifically come to the feeling invisible or rejected. And that's so important tonight. Well, lessons we never forget are learned in trauma, hurt, and loss. Thus, most of our unconscious reactions are based on fears of abandonment and vulnerability. Trauma, hurt, and loss. Make that connection, okay? Um, and unconscious reactions as adults are based on fears of abandonment and vulnerability. The feelings children of younger than 7 experience during such circumstances. Young children may even internalize these shaping feelings, fears, and beliefs from seemingly harmless jokes. We're going to leave you at the zoo with your brothers. That is how innocent it can be. Between 7 and 12, we're able to be more discerning with what we allow, but we still find it almost impossible to blame or reject our parents. In painful situations, our overriding feeling is often helplessness, hurt, and loneliness. We don't have a name as yet for feeling invisible or rejected, but we have already internalized not being good enough. And not being good enough is an epidemic. We have a worldwide epidemic of people walking around looking okay, but not feeling good enough. Okay, so You sent me a really um, a really astute remark, insightful remark when after you read that page 90, Antoinette. You want to tell people how this relates to your experience?
Yeah, well, I know people know my story. I'll try and encapsulate it in relation to page 90. When I read that, I was like, wow. So at 56, I got diagnosed with an aggressive cancer on an anti-cancer lifestyle. And that lifestyle included mindfulness practices, meditation, healthy eating, affirmations, gratitude journals, being spiritual, living in the countryside. So I was very confused. And a couple of months after my diagnosis, I really handed it over to God, actually, because I didn't know where my healing lay, because I was already doing everything most people would do. And the answer I got was to throw out all my belief systems, actually, every single one, and start on a clean slate. And that was terrifying for me. And I was only to find out later why. But what started coming in then was extraordinary. And the first thing that came, I watched a clip by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I had read his books, watched his stuff, but for some reason it didn't really resonate. And in this clip, he was saying that 80% of how we operate comes from the subconscious program, which is in place by the age of 7. And 10%, well, actually 90%, and 10% is from our conscious mind. So I realized there and then that my healing lay, and together with that, I got a book on psychoneuroimmunology. So psychoneuroimmunology says suppressed emotions, distorted belief systems, the way you operate in the world, your dysfunctional patterns, all of those things can affect your immune system and your hormones. So those two things together, and Anita Majani's book, which said absolutism was one of the reasons she got cancer. And I'm like, okay, my healing lies somewhere here. So I started investigating how to reprogram that subconscious. So that's language I've used, which a lot of people don't understand, but you put it so beautifully on that page, is that by 7 years old, our adult personality is actually in place. And we become what you call adult children, which is such a good term that most people don't know. So I started working on rewiring my brain and reprogramming the subconscious, and I didn't really know how to do that. But one of the things I ended up doing was coming to you for coaching by the grace of God. And so out of that unfolded a whole process of actually reprogramming my subconscious. But that's by and large inner child work, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it is. And let's go from the adult child thing, because this, if we tie it so nicely together. So at 7, here we are. Who are we going to be for the rest of our lives? Slightly unfair, right? This one, because nobody wants a 7-year-old in charge of their lives. You're not going to give a 7-year-old the steering, but here you are, like, go, run my life. And the 7-year-old just doesn't have enough insight to understand that the reactions and the belief systems are coming from a place where most of these lessons that we've internalized is about the hurt and the trauma and the shocks and the rejections and the abandonments and the little injuries that we make big because we are little. And with people who mean the best, but they just in their habitual patterns, and they are just carrying over their generational trauma. So they mean the best, but this is what they know. So they keep on doing this. So here we are at 7, and we just want to fit in. So our brain is either going to let us forget it. Like a lot of people with trauma, a lot of people are like, I don't remember anything about my childhood. I don't know anything about my childhood. And then, so that's for a lot of people, the brain just decided, hey, sweetie, this is too painful for you. I'm just going to wipe it out. You don't need to know. Just go be happy. And then we go and be happy because the child just wants to be happy, and the child just wants to fit in, the child just wants to be accepted. So you're just going to fit in with everybody around you and what makes everybody else happy. Now, our rescue lies in if we have parents who, or even a saving person, who will look at us and see us for who we are and actually celebrate us for who we are. A grandmother, a neighbor, a teacher, someone who see us and just like us for who we are. We're so lucky if we have that saving person. If we have that saving person, we can start putting some stuff in place. We're also very lucky if we are the oldest or we have a hero personality. So we've got a saving hero personality because that's going to let you get external validation because you are this hero saving person. You're going to feel a little bit of power from it. So that's going to help. If you're a people pleaser, that's going to help too because people are going to love you because you're going to be pleasing them all the time. It's going to be nothing left of you eventually, but you're going to have a lot of people loving you and really appreciating you. They won't necessarily return the favor, but they will really like you as long as you keep on pleasing them. So we have ways to get through life and we have ways to look at hard circumstances and normalizing it. And then we forget a lot of these anyways. So here we sit, 7-year-old is in charge. We're driving this very big train and we are 7 years old. So, and we manage, but it doesn't mean it's working because it's going to especially show in our self-esteem because even the people who are outgoing sometimes just have an outgoing personality, but they have great self-esteem issues. They may even become more outgoing because they've got self-esteem issues. And a lot of people are going to call it shy or introverted when you really don't have self-esteem. And so it's going to show in that. And even if you're a big achiever, you may still have huge self-esteem problems because all your self-worth is based on what you are doing, but not about who you are inside. So the second place where it comes out is, of course, our relationships. Because in our relationships, that's where we need to be vulnerable and present. Now, how the heck are you going to be vulnerable if you've got so many fears that are sitting in your subconscious? And how the heck are you going to be present in your relationship if your subconscious have decided to hide most of what you are all about from you? You just have these reactiveness, reactions, and this withdrawing, and this blaming, and this judging, and the self-protection measures. They don't work in the relationships. In order to have a really successful relationship, you have to have your own batteries and have a voice and have wants and needs and be an adult who knows all these things. So if you're still an adult child, you do a lot of childish things in the relationships and you become codependent. And that will work as long as everybody's willing to be codependent. And as soon as one partner decides not to be codependent, grow up a little bit, then the punishing behavior starts. And then we're in the hamster wheel. And then 2, 3, 4 relationships down the line, we figure out we do the same thing all the time. So that's basically what happens if you are coming from that point where you have internalized all these traumas and lessons and you have taken on this 7-year-old personality as the one who's getting you to 18, and therefore this must be the way to do it. But this is the question that more and more people are asking me, Antoinette, is where do we start? Every time we have one of these conversations, I've got at least 2 or 3 people emailing me or messaging me and asking, okay, Louise, where do I start? And so our job is for us to reparent ourselves. And I'm going to just give one amazing hint to you today. And this is, go and take a piece of paper. And then you go and sit and really think about this. What is it that you didn't get as a child? Go make that list. Go think about how was it really. If you let yourself, you're going to remember a lot about how you were treated. See, now, in my book, I've got a workbook. So this has got questions in it. And then in the workbook, there's also loads and loads of questions. And it helps for people who can't remember anything because it sparks your memory. But otherwise, it's just all about the quality of the questions you ask yourself, because you have to become inquisitive and you have to open the door that there is more and that you can do it differently, and you don't have to be stuck here. So the principle is this: reparent yourself by giving you that which you didn't have. You didn't have acceptance. You have to decide to accept yourself. If you didn't have encouragement, whose job is it to encourage you? It's yours. If you didn't have unconditional love, like who the heck doesn't want unconditional love? Like really, who? Everybody wants. Everybody craves unconditional love and affirmation. Everybody loves it. You don't always trust it because you're not used to getting it, but we crave it deep inside. So we want to fix ourselves. We have to start accepting ourselves and giving ourselves unconditional love. That doesn't mean we don't have boundaries with ourselves now. Okay, I love myself now. I'm going to stay in bed for the rest of my life. And people hopefully will remember I'm there and feed me. That's not what it means. It means I will do better for myself because I'm worthy of it. And it's not, I'm not going to be a slacker all of a sudden, and if I'm not being harsh on myself. It just means I'll have more energy and I will have more of me there to show up and be real and go do what I'm really supposed to do in life. Okay. What do you want to say, Antoinette?
I think that's the truth you speak. I don't think it's that easy to implement. But it has to be that way, yeah. So I think for me, two things that were very useful. Well, three. One is starting to cultivate very big self-awareness, actually, because the thing is, on this journey, people say they don't know where to start. But Louise, if you were anything like me, most people don't even know what they don't know. People don't know. I did not know my life was dysfunctional. I knew I had a grinding fear. I knew that I was always searching for meaning and purpose. I never felt good enough. I was never enough. But I didn't know it was wrong. I was successful, exercising. I mean, I was ticking all the right boxes. I was popular. And now, in hindsight, 4 years down the line, I can say I just didn't know what I didn't know. So,
Yeah, you're right about it.
unfortunately, hey,
You're completely
what?
right about it. You're right about it. We don't know what we
And
don't
I
know.
had to get I had to get a snot clap. I had to get very sick to starting a process of self-awareness, and then also looking at myself honesty, which is not easy. And then I found, sorry, I interrupted. I also found shadow questionnaire very useful because it showed me, because the subconscious cannot be seen. And I
Yeah.
found you very useful, by the way. My first session with you was like, I think people getting some help really helps, because
Yeah.
seriously, I never asked for help in my whole life till then. And I came to you in one session and I had all these ahas after ahas after ahas. Because sometimes I didn't even know what was playing out in my life, like in my relationships. I didn't know it was dysfunctional. I didn't know I was being a people pleaser, codependent, passive aggressive adult child. I honestly didn't know that till you shone that light on it. And then you also showed me where it came from. And that created a whole journey then of exploration and
And then
awareness.
all of a
And
sudden, it just makes everything starts to be make perfect sense. And you actually have answers and you've got real life tools when you do that. Yeah, so my journey was the same. I was very shy. I've never been outgoing. I've always been an introvert. So I've been very, very shy. But I had these huge protective measures around me while I'm putty inside. I'm like bloody melting marshmallow even inside. But with all these self-protective measures, so people just couldn't get to me easily. So I think I've been labeled all kinds of stuff because just nobody could get to the soft inside. It was just self-defense all the time. And so there are many different ways in which we can't go through life unaware, and because there's just not enough knowledge about this, then we don't know that there are real tools about it. And it wasn't until I talked to Dr. Laurie Wise in a personal conversation that she explained to me that this is why all this work from 40 years ago, which is inner child work and healing work, has been pushed aside because of a decision that the American Society for Psychology have made, based on their own reasons, which I'm not going to go into. But the work was there, but they didn't want this, this connection that you need to have with your clients. They didn't want that. And that's why I call myself a coacher. So I'm a counselor who coach people, because I refuse to be dispassionate standing by. I know for myself that my healing was inside that groups that I was in, that I was facilitating, that becoming, allowing other people into my life, and being part of a group where I was being sponsored, and letting that person into my life, and letting us see all my vulnerabilities. I knew that, and so I was determined I wasn't going to be that dispassionate person who is just sitting there and listening to people spilling and not helping people and not really giving them my full regard, because we need that from somebody to mirror for us that we didn't receive as children. Somebody has to show us it can be done, because how on earth do you give it to yourself when you've never seen it in action?
Exactly, and I never had it from anyone. You talked about teachers or an older person. I never had it from anyone ever until, do you remember I sat on your office floor crying and you put your arms around me compassionately like a mother? I've never cried so much in my whole life because no one had ever done that for me. Because I was always the strong one. I was always helping other people, putting my arms around other people, and I had no idea how dysfunctional I was, in inverted commas, till I came to you, and how distorted my view of myself was mainly, and how, I don't know, my life was playing out in ways that was clearly so not okay when you shone a light on it. But honestly, you can't get there just by getting there. You can't. Am I right? So
No, you
people
can't.
are going around with so many addictions, avoidances, and addictions are not just alcohol and drugs. I mean, they're obvious ones, but Richard Rohr talks about the biggest addiction of humanity is stinking thinking. And when I look back on my life, the stinking thinking I was engaging in, feeling I'm not good enough. I was always dissatisfied, and it wasn't my fault because I had this abandonment syndrome, and so I was trying to fill this empty hole all the time with more what? More courses, more workshops, more reading. Lucky for me, a lot of it was so-called positive stuff, more spiritual gurus, more meditation, more journaling, more exercising, more green juice. It's like, and a lot of alcohol in between. And none of it ever made any change, actually. Maybe without it, I wouldn't be alive now. So I'm not. But when you shone a light on what was going on and where it came from, that was a major part of the start of my journey of both self awareness and starting to see who I really was and how I was really functioning, how distorted my views were about things and how badly I was operating in relationships. And the interesting thing is, Louise, I'm 4.5 years down the line on this journey now, and I was single until 2 years ago. And you know what's happened in my relationship. I went into an intimate relationship feeling like I 80% got this stuff because I've really done a lot of transformational work. It was like going back to grade one, hey, in this
Now, I
relationship.
say this to everybody. Well, you know what? You can work with me, you can work with me, you can work with me. There's a point where I cannot until you are actually in the relationship. So a lot of people say, no, I'm done with relationships. I'm never going to go there again. Okay, fine. The more you get healthier, the more you're going to be willing to get into relationships, because there's a new healthy you that's emerging. And that healthy you is a real person who is not hiding stuff and squishing down feelings, but saying, okay, I'm doing a lot of healing and I am worthy of being in a relationship. And then we become a little bit more open, and we find we have a voice and we have a choice, and then when we get ready to invite a relationship, and then we do the real work, because now we are suddenly invested, and boom, back come that 7-year-old we read about just now. Back it comes. And any little piece that you have not worked on your abandonment fears, or any little bit where you have not looked at your rejections, feeling invisible. I mean, how many people walk around feeling invisible, feeling not wanted, feeling not loved? It has nothing to do with our current life. We may repeat a lot of those patterns. We may end up in situations where we are not loved and we are not wanted, and or we feel like we're not wanted, and we are not visible to the other person. I mean, I've certainly repeated that. That is why my relationship ended up in tatters. There was nothing left of it because that was my pattern. And a lot of people have that pattern because we are vulnerable to the situation because that's where we come from. And we will not even walk out of it because it's so familiar to us and we need to be there so we can heal those things inside of ourselves. So if we're in the relationship, that's not the time to run. That's the time to say, I'm still doing my inner healing. My relationship is my biggest blessing when it's so uncomfortable or so triggering, or nobody's triggering you. You've got a trigger inside you, but that person have just got the ability to go, poof, here's your button. Your job is to find that button, give it a name, and get rid of it. And that person triggering you is your biggest blessing because it gives you the opportunity to go and find that little pieces that are left. But you'll only do it when you're deeply invested in the relationship. Otherwise, not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, I think also deeply invested in your own relationship with yourself and your own transformation to the best version of yourself. Because I could easily leave this relationship, to be honest. That's what I've done my whole life. I just move on. And that's not hard for me, to be honest. That's the easy part. Some people would find that hard. That would be the easy out for me. But I'm absolutely determined to show up to be the best version of myself in relationship because until I've done that, I know you've also shown me I cannot blame the other person or exit. So if there's something going on with my partner, it will need to be addressed. But first, I only got drilled right down to my issue now after a year of all of this drama playing out, is I still don't feel I'm lovable. And I still have that abandonment wound, which I thought I'd healed over the last 3 years. That's like, let me push him away. Let me be a bitch because then I'll get rid of him. And then it just proves that whole. That's the weird thing, hey, about this little child inside. It's like I push him away so he'll abandon me. Then I'll feel terribly abandoned. It'll just prove my abandonment wound. Because essentially I feel unlovable. But thank goodness I've realized that now. It took me a long time to get there, and now I know how to work on it.
Antoinette, I'm never very eager to step into a new session with clients doing couples counseling because if you have one person who have not reached that point, if you have just one of two who's like, it's not my problem, it's that one's problem, that person must fix themselves, I don't have to do anything on myself, I've done this, that person, anybody's still in the blaming, shaming, naming, judging, punishing game. Because you're not there when you get broken open. You're just not there. When you're broken open, you look at yourself. So if I have one person willing to work, and there's couples counseling, it doesn't work. I have to have two people who are willing and broken open. But let me tell you how amazing it is to work with a couple who really, really wants to work on themselves. It's like the biggest blessing for me when in those situations because the miracles does happen. It's hard for us to become broken open. It sounds terrible. It sounds like something we don't want. It sounds honestly scary. My ex-sister-in-law posted something on Facebook today, and I answered her because it was about inner child healing, and she said, "Yeah, but people are scared of it." And I said, "The problem is this: it's that people are supposed to be more scared of the lives they are actually living. Scared of how they're living their life, what they are doing, and." To become excited about our emotional freedom. That word is emotional freedom. I mean, reflect on that for a minute. Emotional freedom. Just that word in itself is like it's like a party. Emotional freedom is like a party. It's a celebration. And we don't understand that all we have to do is become willing and open. When we become willing and open, there's no more of this bullshit of pointing fingers and that one that and that one that. It is, what can I do? What can I do? It is me. And when you have two people like that, it's amazing. But until you
But
have
look
two
at,
people who are willing to do it,
yeah.
you might as well not do it.
Oh, that's going to rule out a lot of relationship healing. But Louise, it's not, it isn't easy. And that's why people don't, it is not easy to look at shame and fear and resentment and abandonment issues. But I think the interesting thing is that human beings seem to have got seriously confused because of our socialization and conditioning about what's easy and what's hard. I think, unfortunately, a lot of religion and spirituality and self-help stuff has set us up to believe that if we're not zen and happy and peaceful, then we're all aspiring to be that. So people are uncomfortable and scared to feel shame or extreme anxiety. I mean, most people are operating with anxiety anyway, but it's so under their consciousness, they don't consciously know it because they're drinking in the evenings and they're doing a lot of sports in the mornings and they're working hard during the day. So I think we've all become a little bit confused about what should be hard and what should be easy. Feeling shame and feeling resentment and bitterness is not easy. Accessing your past to heal it is not always comfortable. But on the other side of that is the joy and the creativity and the peace and the zen. They go together. And so the thing is, people will not, a lot of people don't believe that. That's why I'm so relieved to see what you wrote in the book, because people have told me I'm addicted to suffering, I'm addicted to my story. When I tell them that this inner work of transformation is it takes effort, it does take commitment. You've got to have commitment, you've got to have repetitive practice, and you've got to be okay with not being okay. You've got to be okay with feeling discomfort, because it ain't going to be comfortable.
Yeah,
Am
but
I
Anthony,
right?
yeah, but there's a but.
Okay.
It is hard until you get a few essential outlooks. So it
Yes.
is hard when you want to hold on to your old beliefs, but your old beliefs is what's getting you in trouble. So you have to start becoming very willing to look at your old beliefs and let the heck of them go. That's number one. You have to become willing. Number two is this. We have belief systems that it is hard to go through old trauma. It's not, because you're not 7 years old and you as the adult can feel these feelings. They're not going to kill you and your hands are not going to fall off. So we are scared of this going through our old trauma because we are thinking like a 7-year-old. That's such an
Okay,
important
that
one to
makes
remember.
sense.
The fear that we have is not our adult fears. If we think about the immeasurable shit that we are going through day by day, especially lately, that we are still here. We are handling this. So now I don't want to go back to my childhood shit, but I'm handling life today as an adult.
Mhm.
It's an irrational fear because we look at it through the eyes of a 7-year-old who couldn't handle it. You're a
Mhm.
grown up. You can handle it. You need a bit of guidance. You need the right questions. If you have somebody helping you to see your blind spot mirror, you can go, oh. And the third one is this. We are so attached to our belief systems and our thoughts. So if we, first of all, understand that we are not our thoughts and our thoughts are not in control of us. That's the first thing. But the second thing to know is this. Simply because I have a belief doesn't make it true. Like, how big is that? That is so
Okay.
big, just because I have a belief. The day when I figured out how wrong I was about a lot of stuff, for somebody who was like, I know everything and I'm always right. Yeah, seriously. Really. I know everything. Because if I don't know it, I'm going to research it. I'm not going to open my mouth until I'm 400% sure. Therefore, I'm always going to be right. No, seriously. That's me. It used to be me. Then I was like, oh, if I was wrong about that, What else am I wrong about? Wow, this
Yeah.
is amazing. That's the attitude you should switch. That's it. If I was so wrong about this, like one of these things, like over control, it was so my work to do all this work in my relationship, take responsibility for somebody else's feelings, and like, what? It's not my work. It's not my Oh, yes, you are right. That's an adult. Okay. Wow. This is amazing. That's the kind of eye-opening moments that we need. And there are many, many, many of them that gives us huge freedom.
Yes,
We are
that is
scared, but
true.
it's not hard. It's just those three are like really elemental for us to become teachable and willing to become teachable. Then it's not hard.
Yeah, it's very liberating, actually. And I think if we can just feel those feelings, they pass relatively fast. It's the resistance of feeling them or facing them. And I never thought before that that comes from the 7-year-old. So it's that fear that the child has of facing that stuff. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and remember, when you have abandonment fears, it's not about you as an adult. Like, you may not like it if your boyfriend leaves you. Are you going to die? Are you going to cry? Yes. Are you going to miss your boyfriend terribly? Yes. Are you going to die? Very unlikely, hey? Very unlikely. So, but the 7-year-old or the 4-year-old, where the abandonment fears are coming from, 2 or 3 or 4, yes, being abandoned at that age, you know what's going to happen? You're going to die. So you have an irrational fear of dying from abandonment. You can't even face it or think about it. Think about it how many times in life you've been abandoned. This one didn't like me. That friend didn't want to be a friend anymore. That one, was not that into me. That one was a really bad relationship. I'm so glad I'm over it. How many times have we been abandoned in our lives? And yet here we are. But if you tell somebody this person is about to leave you, boom. Or if that person shows you in some sort of way, boom, in goes the abandonment fear. Hello, 3-year-old, 4-year-old.
Mm.
The minute when it was born. I'm going to leave you at the zoo with your brothers if you don't behave. You're such a naughty child. We're going to go visit our granny and you're not coming with because you're so not well behaved. We're not taking you with. Okay, fine. I'm going to be abandoned because I'm not good enough. There you go for the rest of your life.
The
Fairly
thing
easy to
is,
fix
so
if you have some help, if you've got good questions.
yeah, I was going to say help is critical because otherwise you don't even know. You don't even know that your reactions are based on something.
Yeah.
For a child that's 5 or 7, you don't know that. You just know that things are not okay and there's all these reactions and yeah.
Look, the good news is on the 4th of February, the definitive inner child healing program is starting. Sort your shit. So if you want to sort your shit, it's starting. It's a 6 months program. I can't do this overnight. There's no miracles. It's a program. It's got all the questions. It's got live support. It's got everything that I do, that I used to do in live and in the real world for the last 12 years in group work. Everything is in there. And so there's a program. I've designed it. You don't have to have sessions with me every week. So it's affordable. There's a lot of stuff. It's all the stuff. It's all the research that I've been doing for all these years. So it's coming. It's coming.
And
And
if you can do it in 6 months, that's such a gift because if you don't get help, it takes a very long time. I've been doing this for 4 years because I've had very little help, professional help. So that's such
yeah,
a gift that you're giving the world, Louise, that people in
yeah,
6 months, if you can transform. And I've seen that with people that have been to you for coaching every week after, yeah, it's a much shorter amount of time than me. They're 180-degree transformed. It's incredible. It's very
yeah.
powerful, hey.
It is. It doesn't help it well if you just dip in and out. Some people just dip in and out because a lot of us still think I have to fix everything myself. People, did you hear me just now? The day when the first thing I figured out was I don't have to fix everything myself. I can let support in. Other people are adults. Wow, that was really a big thing for me to figure out. I can ask for help and I can let other people see my insides and they're still going to like me. It's like, ooh, new. Who knew? People are going to still like me when they see my insides. Now I'm letting my insides hang out all the time, all over the place. And people still like me. It's like, what? It's all fine. We can learn to do that. Yeah, so we'll keep on talking about it because it's coming. I'm very excited about it. And there is a way to do it. So you can do it without support. You can go buy my book. It's a good book for it. There's lots of questions. Oh, and I'm going to use Dr. Laurie White's questions that she's done the research. She and her husband Jonathan did the research 40 years ago. So we're also bringing all of that in, which is amazing. Such a big blessing. Okay, let's go and see. Do we have enough hearts? No. Come, people, give us a bit more hearts. I like the hearts. Give us a few more hearts. Anybody has questions? Let me go and see. Okay.
Is there anyone here?
No, there's a few hearts there. Not enough to make me really happy, just enough to make me a little bit happy. Okay, so hi, Caroline. Caroline Harry. I haven't seen you on one of our lives before, but why is the monkey hiding like this? Okay, you need to explain that to me. I want to know about that monkey. Is that a monkey? Is this a monkey? What is it?
No, it's prayer hands, I think.
Oh, prayer hands. It looks like a monkey if it's very small. All right. Oh, I'd love to know more because I don't know what it's all about, but I'd love to know more. I'd love to meet you. All right. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions, any comments, any inner child healing that they need to do? Any questions about where to start? Or anything you want to share? So while you are all thinking about it, we're not going to leave late tonight. We're going to leave in the next 5 minutes. So you're going to have to ask your questions quickly because the Prince of Darkness is coming to visit me in 20 minutes. If you live in South Africa, you know I'm talking about Eskom, who's going to cut the power in 20 minutes. And I have to cook tonight.
You better go.
Yeah, so in 5 minutes, I'm going to go put my food on the stove so that by the time the Prince of Darkness arrives, there's some hot food there. All right. Okay, Antoinette, so I don't see any more questions. I mean, I hope it's because I have explained it really well and I've given some good tips and that people are learning through your amazing example that you're always so vulnerable and happy to share. Hi, someone else who's new. Hi,
maybe
Fred.
the people. Oh, hello, Fred. Gee, it's so nice to have new people. Yay.
Yeah, we love it. That's amazing. Thank you for joining us, Caroline and Fred. Love it. I don't know.
So interesting. If you know this stuff, Louise, it's probably like, oh, there they go again. But if you don't know this stuff, if there's only one thing you take out of this is that it could be very possible that whether you're 50, 60, or 40, that your child with all its conditioning wounds and socialization is playing out and running your show. And geez, I didn't know that till I was 56. It's such a big aha, hey, when you get it.
Look, you can start doing this work at any age. It's never, ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course.
Actually, never too late. Yeah, it is just amazing. Whenever you start doing it, it is just amazing. Right.
Hello, Fred.
Nice to meet you, Fred. Okay. All right. So no questions from anybody?
Okay, Louise.
All right. So just to say to everybody who comes in afterwards that remember we will come back and we'll answer your questions and we'll comment and keep on giving us some hearts. Please share this because the more you share and comment and give it hearts, the more Facebook, that other dark prince, will show it to more people. So the more you comment, the more you share it, the more Facebook will show it to more people. And I think we all agreed that everybody can really do with this knowledge. There's like we say, at least 90% of the world needs to do inner child healing and need to know where to start with and become much, much more aware of how the 7-year-old or the 3 or 4-year-old by all horrors is running the show. And just and one tiny aside, the more reactive you are as an adult, overreacting, more you withdraw, punish, scream, shout, have anger outbursts, the more hurt you've got locked inside you. And so it is really well worth paying attention to your own reactions. Antoinette, thank you for coming.
Thank
We'll
you,
talk
Louise. Thank you.
and sharing so openly like always. It's always a blessing. Thank you so very much for that. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah, good night, everybody. Good night.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. Lovely meeting some new people. Ah, there's some more hearts there. I'm very happy. Thank you guys for the hearts. Love, love, love the hearts. Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.